Spotlight Africa brought to you by Spectrum Television and Planet Radio. I am Uyai Ankan. Africa. Top Indian University opens first offshore campus in Africa. President Museveni downplays Uganda's removal from AGOA. Presidential rival arrested in Madagascar. In South Africa, there is a recalling of all diplomats and ambassadors from Israel. Plus, votes to solve Tigray-Amhara territory dispute. Ahead on Spotlight Africa, do stay with us. Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin today's Spotlight Africa with good news, where the first international campus of the Indian Institute of Technology Madras, IIT Madras, has officially opened in the Tanzanian archipelago of Zanzibar. The Zanzibar campus offers a 4-year Bachelor of Science degree in Data Science and Artificial Intelligence and a 2-year Master of Technology program in Data Science and AI. IIT Madras, a public technical university in Chennai, is one of the best universities in India. According to reports, 46 students from India and Zanzibar have already registered for the BSc course. In another development, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has downplayed concerns over the expulsion of his country from a special U.S.-Africa trade program. Recall that United States President Joe Biden had said Uganda and 3 other African countries would be removed from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, citing Uganda's gross violations of internationally recognized human rights. But President Museveni criticized the U.S., saying it overestimates the country and erroneously thinks that African countries cannot move forward without their support. Museveni, however, held the American government for maintaining funding for HIV drugs, but added that his government had a contingency plan to acquire the drugs if foreign donors pulled out. Moving away from that, an opposition presidential candidate has been arrested in Madagascar at a protest in the taken away by the police. The opposition has alleged that this month's election, I beg your pardon, is being rigged in favor of the incumbent Andry Rajoelina. The Electoral Commission has not commented on the allegation. Several recent attempts to stage demonstrations have been broken up by the police. Reports say political tension is high in Madagascar. Last month, 2 candidates, including former President Marc Ravalomanana, were injured during opposition protest. In a separate development, 2 men have been arrested in connection with the theft of foreign currency that was stuffed under a sofa cushion at South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's Fala farm in 2020. The suspects will appear in court today. Police spokesperson Colonel Katalego Mogali said they are planning to arrest a 3rd person. Dubbed Farmgate, the controversy first came to light when Arthur Fraser, the former head of the country's state security agency, filed a criminal complaint against President Ramaphosa last year. Fraser accused the president of bribery, money laundering, and concealing a crime in relation to the alleged theft of an estimated $4 million from his farm. He stated that President Ramaphosa did not report the thefts to police in an attempt to cover up the existence of the large sum of cash. Meanwhile, the South African government said today it would recall all its diplomats from Israel to signal its concern over the situation in Gaza. Kumduzo Nasaveri, the minister in the president's office, told a press briefing that all diplomatic staff in Tel Aviv would be asked back to Pretoria for consultations without providing further details. Fighting has raged in the Gaza Strip for about a month since Hamas militants launched an unprecedented attack over the border from the territory into Israel on October 7. Now, according to reports, more than 1,400 people, most of them civilians, have been killed in Israel since the attack, during which Hamas 240 people hostage. Meanwhile, in response, Israel has relentlessly bombarded Gaza and sent in ground troops, with the health ministry in the Hamas-run Palestinian territory saying more than 9,700 people have been killed, also mainly civilians.
If Israel, for that reason that we are worried with the continuous bombardment, the threat of nuclear. And you'll recall the previous cabinet statement, we indicated that the failure by the international community to hold Israel to account and to stop the impunity and the genocidal acts that the Israeli government is doing to the Palestinian people will mean a total collapse of a multilateral system and the collapse of the global system of governance. And a world order that does not have a multilateral governance order or a multilateral system that reigns in everybody, it's bad for the world. Imagine who will stop the detonation of nuclear bombs from the other side, who have threatened that they can also activate nuclear. So if Israel and the United States supports Israel to use nuclear, and the United States does not stop the bombardment by Israel of the Palestinian territories, it will mean everybody will take matters in their own hands and do as they please. So Israel is threatening the stability of the global system by its conduct against the Palestinian people. And the United States support of Israel is enabling Israel to threaten the global system of a multilateral system and good governance. And that makes a peaceful global order.
Moving away from that, the territorial dispute between Ethiopia's northern Amhara and Tigray regions will be settled through a referendum, the government says. Reports say the row has threatened to disrupt the fragile peace following the end of the civil war in Tigray over a year ago. Tigray controlled the fertile lands before Amhara forces seized them in during the conflict. Meanwhile, groups have accused those forces of carrying out ethnic cleansing in the disputed areas. The allegations were dismissed by Amhara's regional government. Meanwhile, heavy fighting is reported to be continuing between Ethiopian troops and local militias across large parts of the Amhara region. Residents say heavy weaponry is being used. There are also fears that civilians are trapped. The authorities had claimed they would contain the conflict, but fighters from the Fano militia group say they have thwarted government attacks and seized towns. Reports say communications blackouts have been imposed, making it difficult to confirm the details of the violence. It would be recalled that the Ethiopian government announced a state of emergency in August after militias entered several towns and briefly controlled an airport. Last week, Western countries, including Britain and the United States, called for a ceasefire. In another development, Chad says it has recalled its chargé d'affaires in Israel for consultation over unprecedented deadly violence in the Gaza Strip. In a statement from the country's Foreign Affairs Ministry, the government condemned the loss of human lives of many innocent civilians and called for a ceasefire leading to a lasting solution to the Palestinian question. In 1972, Chad, a Muslim-majority country, severed its diplomatic relations with Israel but later revived ties in 2019. It is now the first African country to recall its envoy from Israel since the start of the war in October. So far, Turkey, Chile, Bahrain, Honduras, Colombia, and Jordan have also recalled their ambassadors to Israel. On a rather sad development, security and local officials said separatist rebels killed around 20 people, including women and children, in an attack on a village in one of Cameroon's restive Anglophone regions. The overnight attack occurred right in Ebagwe village, western Cameroon, the scene of deadly clashes between rebels and government forces for 7 years. Now, according to reports, the attack left around 20 dead men, women, and children, and 10 seriously injured people in the hospital. Meanwhile, a security force official and an official from a governmental body also confirmed the attack and provisional toll. Cameroon's primarily English-speaking northwest and southwest regions have been gripped by conflict since separatists declared independence in 2017. It followed decades of grievances over perceived discrimination by the Francophone majority. President Paul Biya, 90, who has ruled the Central African nation with an iron fist for 41 years till date, has resisted calls for wider autonomy and responded with a crackdown. 15 persons killed as flooding hits Kenya. Stay tuned for details of this and more after this time out. Thanks for staying tuned, and now to the rest of the news stories on Spotlight Africa. In Guinea, authorities say at least 9 people were killed during a jailbreak in which former military ruler Moussa Dadis Camara was briefly freed. Recall that gunmen stormed the prison in the capital Conakry on Saturday, taking Captain Camara and 3 others. The Justice Ministry said suspected attackers, security forces, and civilians were among the dead. Meanwhile, the former president and 2 of the men were later returned to jail. They were on trial for their alleged role in the killing of more than 150 protesters at the Conakry Stadium 14 years ago. He has denied the charges, but it is not clear if Captain Camara and the others were kidnapped or freed by their supporters. Moving away from that, more than 20 people have been killed and several others injured after shells hit a market in a suburb of Sudan's capital, Khartoum. Reports say the crowded market in Omdurman was hit after an intense exchange of fire between the Sudan Army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF. Meanwhile, a medical source told newsmen that the Saturday shelling killed 15 people in the Al Twara neighborhood of Omdurman. In another development, the United Nations World Food Programme today said more than 1.6 million children aged under 5 will suffer from malnutrition next year in South Sudan, following the surge in waterborne diseases due to flooding. Reports say the world's newest nation has endured deadly conflict, natural disasters, economic malaise, and relentless political infighting since it won independence from Sudan in 2011. Meanwhile, as flooding becomes an annual affair in some parts of the country, people living in waterlogged areas have struggled to access food while also grappling with the spread of disease. According to reports in Rob County, where floodwaters have submerged large tracts of land, forcing entire communities to live on small islands since 2021, the cost of food staples has climbed by more than 120% since April. The county, which lies in the north of the country, is forecast to face catastrophic levels of hunger by April 2024. Meanwhile, United Nations Humanitarian Agency says thousands of people are trapped in flooded areas following heavy rains in Somalia's Jubaland state. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, said in a statement that the heavy rains, which started last month, have elevated the water levels on the Juba River, causing flooding in riverine areas of the state. The statement noted that in Luke District, 2,400 people have been trapped in an area surrounded by water, adding that efforts by authorities and rescue partners are underway to evacuate the stranded locals. On a sad development, the Red Cross said at least 15 people have died in Kenya as floods swept away scores of houses and devastated farmland following torrential rains. Reports say heavy rainfall has pounded the country, particularly the bone-dry north, in recent days and sent water gushing into homes and submerging roads, with similar scenes playing out across other parts of East Africa. It added that more than 1,000 livestock have died, while at least 240 acres, about 97 hectares of agricultural farmland, have been destroyed. Meanwhile, the United Nations Humanitarian Agency, OCHA, said last month that Eastern Africa would likely encounter heavier than normal rains over the October-December period because of the El Nino phenomenon. Kenya's Meteorological Department also warned last week that the heavy rains were likely to be accompanied by gusty winds. Lastly, today on Spotlight Africa, the Deputy Governor of Nigeria's Northern Taraba State, Aminu Alkali, has banned night travel on waterways. Fishermen must also now remove barricades, and boat crews have been told to stop overloading passengers, offer life jackets, and have passenger manifest. It follows the recovery of 20 bodies after a fatal boat accident last month along the Benue River, one of Nigeria's largest rivers. At least 14 people survived, but more than 70 people are believed to be missing. Rescue and recovery efforts were hampered by water levels being at their highest. Taraba Police spokesperson Usman Abdullahi said last week that authorities have attributed the frequent boat accidents in Nigeria's riverine state to inaccessible roads, boat overloading, and failure of boat users to use life jackets. And that's all we have for you today on Spotlight Africa, bringing you news all around the continent. This has been brought to you by Spectrum Television and Planet Radio. Do well to follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv Live. You can also follow us on planetradio.ng. I am Uyai Anyeka, and thanks for being a part of this, and enjoy the rest of your day.